There's no indication that that number's going down at all.
16,000 of them are in Maricopa County alone.
And I started at Christian Family Care 2.5 years ago, and when I started there was 16,000 kids in foster care.
Most states, they're seeing a decline in children that are in the foster care system.
What would happen if the church raised up and stopped that 72% of kids coming into care?
So the numbers are growing exponentially every year with the kids in foster care, and we don't have enough homes. So there's probably dozens of children sleeping in DCS offices every night because there's not enough foster families in Arizona. So if kids don't have a foster family to go to, that's when they go to group homes or shelters, and that's a glorified way of saying orphanage. So what we would think of in a third world country or something similar to that, it would be an orphanage. And so in the United States we call those group homes and we call those shelters, where those kids don't have families, they have staff. So a staff comes in the morning, takes care of them in the morning, then they leave when their shift is over, and new staff comes in. So that's why we want foster families, because they have a different level of support. They are cared for in a family setting, and it's just much different, especially for kids who are coming from backgrounds of abuse and neglect. It's really important for them to have a loving family and a support system around them.
And then looking at data, looking at statistics, and going to meetings and talking to people, it just seems like it's a perfect storm right now.
What is our role in all of this? What would happen if the church, if Christians got involved with the families in our neighborhood and our community?
It's just a growing problem. This year's the first ever Justice Summit Defending Orphans event that Christian Family Care is putting on for the whole state. We have one in Phoenix and one in Tucson, and we're hoping that this is just an event that we're able to put on every year to engage with community and church leaders to teach them more about orphan care.
Maybe this was a moment that can reignite some of that. That was my hope. When we first started out, it was actually a huge dream. And so today, a couple hundred people here. I'm praying that maybe they go back home and go to their churches and say, hey, we know what we can do now. Let's do this.
The Care Portal is basically a bat signal to churches and faith-based organizations that there is a need. So DCS would specifically work with the Care Portal, and they would say, hey, there's a need, this family needs beds. They need a crib and they need a full-size bed or a twin bed, or they would say what the need was. And they would say that to the Care Portal. The Care Portal would then send out communication to the churches that are signed up based on their zip code. And then they would hear that, hey, there's a family that needs 2 beds. And then if you can provide that, the churches then send back to the portal, we've got it. And then they let everybody know that that need has been taken care of.
James defines pure religion in the end of James 1 as caring for the orphans and the widows. It's a church-based organization that exists to support churches to help them train and recruit families, individuals that want to address the foster care crisis in Arizona.
I like to paint the picture of orphan care ministry with a story. 3 friends walk up to this river, and it's raging, and there's kids in the river, and they're just floating downstream. The first friend jumps into the river and starts picking up as many kids as possible. The second friend runs downstream because he knows there's a waterfall, and he's helping kids before they get to the waterfall. And then there's the third friend, and he runs upstream to figure out why kids are in the stream at all. Why are they in the river? So that first friend, that's foster care. And we need foster families. There's a lot of Christian agencies or state agencies where you can get involved. And you're just jumping in the system and you're helping these families.
So at Christian Family Care, our vision is to see every child loved and nurtured in a Christ-centered family, because we believe, especially with the kids coming from the backgrounds of abuse and neglect, that the true way to healing is through Jesus Christ. And so all of our foster families are part of our ministry, and they're all Christ-loving families who are out to love these kids through thick and thin, that they aren't going to give up because the going gets tough, because they see this as something that Jesus would do if he were here right now. This is like Jesus in the flesh, like loving these kids through their situation and helping them find true and complete healing.
And then there's other programs like CASA and neighborhood ministries where they're helping kids exit the system, or they're helping kids once they're already in the system before they go over that waterfall. And then there's safe families for children. We're on the prevention side, so we're running upstream. We're trying to figure out why these families are jumping in the river, why these kids are in the river to begin with. And so what we found out is that these families are isolated and they have no one to turn to. So what we do with Safe Families is we become an extended family to that family, that mom, that dad, those children. It's old school neighbor helping neighbor, just like we would have done in the old days. And it's easy to get involved. There's plenty of ways to get involved. It's anywhere from mentoring a mom to helping her find a job, to babysitting, to helping her with resources and helping her with diapers, or to becoming a host family where you take a kid in for 30 to 45 days.
We have 3 kids biological, and then we have had 4 foster children over 2 years. And 3 weeks ago today, we officially adopted a little girl.
We just closed our license this last summer, so we were foster parents for 3 years, and we adopted 3 kids from foster care.
We fostered a little girl for a couple of years, and she's become our daughter, so we've adopted her.
And yeah, just over time, God really just kind of brought our hearts into realizing that's exactly what he did for us in a spiritual way.
Hearing of the need here in our state for foster parents, we just really felt like God opened our hearts to the idea that he might have a plan for us to care for kids, even short term, and just to be part of potentially seeing families be put back together.
My favorite part about fostering is every story is different and every child is different. 3 of the children that we had during that time really kind of followed what the statistics say. One little guy was with us for 4 days, and then he went to an aunt's house in another town. One little guy was with us for 6 months, and then he ended up going back to his mom, and we actually celebrated that, and we're actually Facebook friends with her. And then our little girl, unfortunately, her parents' rights were severed. And I say that unfortunately because ultimately I actually think that there is a sadness to that, but yet it was great joy for us to be able to adopt this little girl. So when her parents' rights were severed, we knew then that if she became up for adoption, that we were going to adopt her.
It's definitely the relationships that are the best. Seeing the transformation that even takes place in their lives, from when they come into your home to them growing and making connections with people, even potentially finding healing from some of the things that they came from. And then oftentimes that even bleeds out over into relationships with the families they came from.
I think thinking through any of the ways that you would think help a family with new kids in their house tends to be a great way to help. Or that means meals when families get a placement, just to help take some of the burden of preparing meals in the chaos of a new kid in your house.
Older teens need mentors, so that's a huge way to be involved. Also just babysitting, that's been a unique challenge with 5 kids and with kids that might have special needs.
It really takes a team of people, and what I would want is for people to really be able to use whatever unique gifts God's given them, whatever unique resources God's given them, for them to look at those things and wonder, okay, how can I use this to serve foster families?
I know at least a few of our people are what are called CASA, C-A-S-A, which is a court-appointed special advocate, where you are literally licensed by the state and they partner you with a foster child. And like you can, when a child has a court date, you will be there with the child.
I tell churches all the time, there's 3 things that you can do for foster families. One is food. When a child is born, there's a lot of celebration. There's meals brought. And so I tell churches, like, start celebrating those children. Food means celebration in most cultures. Another thing I tell people is stuff. So have a place in your church or your community group or wherever that's like a stack of Target or Walmart or Old Navy gift cards. So food, stuff. And the third one I say is time. Giving time, like time to the foster family. Have a place, be able to provide maybe respite care or go through the training to become a respite provider, or even just give them a date night.
So even if it's something that you think, I don't see how this could possibly be used, or what benefit this would be, it might actually be, and it could be really helpful. So just to look at what you have and what you're capable of and what you're passionate about, and to consider, how could I use this to really help these families out?